Imagine standing in a metropolis as bustling as modern Manhattan. Stone palaces and endless wealth surround you. Suddenly, the air grows incredibly thick, not with city smog, but with sharp vinegar and sweet, rotting lavender. People rush past with their faces tightly covered. Frantic terror fills their eyes. This is Florence, the absolute jewel of Europe. The year is 1348. You cannot know it yet, but in just a few months, half of this population will simply vanish. These magnificent streets will become open graveyards. A deafening silence will swallow everything. Welcome to 24 Hours During the Black Death. Before we begin, please note that all the images and video footage in this episode were brought to life using artificial intelligence. However, every single detail has been meticulously researched and verified against trusted historical sources. We promise there are no wild fabrications here. If this is your first time watching, or if you have been here before but forgot to subscribe, please take a second to hit that like and subscribe button so you will not miss our next journey. Dawn breaks over Florence. Barely. The sun struggles through a thick gray haze. It is early morning. Normally, you would hear the familiar sounds of a waking city. Carts rattling over cobblestones, merchants shouting for attention. The sweet scent of fresh dough baking in wood-fired ovens would fill the crisp air. Not today. Today, there is only the bell. The great bell of the Giotto Tower rings. And it rings again. A heavy, relentless, rhythmic pounding. It is the definitive death toll. It started weeks ago as just a few sparse rings a day. Now, it literally never stops. The bell ringer must be physically exhausted, or perhaps he is dead too, and someone else simply pulled the heavy rope. You do not know, and you absolutely do not want to know. The sound vibrates deep in your chest. It is a constant auditory reminder that your entire world is ending. You push open your heavy wooden door and step out onto the cold cobblestones. The immediate assault is violently on your nose. The air is incredibly thick, heavy, and physically coats your throat. You expect the crisp, familiar smell of morning dew. Instead, you get sharp, highly acidic vinegar. It forcefully burns your nostrils. You smell crushed rosemary, sweet lavender, dried thyme, and intensely pungent garlic. It feels exactly like walking into a chaotic, desperate perfume shop. But the botanical shield is rapidly failing. Underneath the floral assault is something else entirely. Something dense, uncomfortably sweet, and profoundly sickening. It is the unmistakable stench of rotting human flesh. It seeps out from the locked houses and lingers heavy in the dark alleyways. You pull your collar up tight and quickly start walking. These streets are usually a vibrant, chaotic center of global trade. Now, they are completely and utterly desolate. You see a few isolated figures slipping like silent shadows along the cold stone walls. They are neighbors you have known your entire life. Now they look exactly like terrified strangers. Their heads are bowed, their shoulders severely hunched. They do not speak, and they absolutely never make eye contact. Every single one of them holds a bundle of dried flowers or a vinegar-soaked sponge strictly to their face. They press these tightly to their noses so hard, their knuckles turn completely white. Their eyes remain wide open over the dirty rags in pure, unadulterated panic. They walk incredibly fast, completely desperate to get back behind their locked wooden doors. But here is where the dark reality gets truly fascinating. The reason for the flowers and the sharp vinegar goes far beyond just masking the horrific smell. This is 14th century medicine in full action. The brightest minds of Europe firmly believe in one specific deadly concept: miasma, bad air, corrupted vapors rising directly from the deep earth. They believe distant earthquakes cracked the ground, allowing toxic air to escape and blow across the trade routes straight into Italy. The theory is brutally simple and absolutely terrifying. The disease is literally alive inside the smell itself. If you breathe the foul air, your bodily humors become completely unbalanced. You get extremely sick, and you inevitably die. Therefore, the medical cure is also considered very simple. Block the bad smell with a good, powerful smell. Create a thick physical barrier of sweet scent. Vinegar cleanses the infected air. Rosemary deeply purifies it. So they walk, frantically clutching their little bouquets, breathing in the strong lavender. They truly think it is an impenetrable shield, a botanical armor protecting them from the literal end of the world. They genuinely believe the sweet scent is actively saving their fragile lives. But it is completely useless. They are not fighting a toxic, invisible cloud. They are fighting a highly contagious, deadly bacteria. A microscopic killer carried by fleas on the rats scurrying right over their fine leather boots. The beautiful flowers do not do a single thing. They are simply perfuming their own corpses. Midday strikes. The sun beats down mercilessly on the Tuscan stone. The intense heat only amplifies the horror. You walk into the Piazza della Signoria. This is the political and social heart of Florence. It is a massive open stone square. Normally, it is deafening here. Politicians arguing loudly, merchants screaming out prices, citizens gathering to hear the latest news from the Republic. Today, absolute silence. A heavy, suffocating, terrifying silence. You stand in the exact center of the plaza. You look around the vast, empty expanse. What exactly are you expecting to see? You are waiting for the ultimate symbol of the plague. You are looking for that terrifying figure in the black leather coat, the wide-brimmed dark hat, the creepy glass goggles, and most importantly, that horrifying long bird beak stuffed with aromatic herbs, the famous plague doctor. You scan the dark alleyways for that iconic, nightmarish silhouette. You wait for him to step out of the shadows, pointing his wooden cane. But wait, here is a massive historical twist. You will never see him. He is not here. He does not exist. That iconic bird costume is a complete myth for this era. It will not be invented for almost another 300 years. A French doctor named Charles Delorme will design it in 1619. Putting a beak mask in the year 1348 is a massive fabricated lie. So who is treating the sick right now? You see a man hurry past the Palazzo Vecchio. He wears a simple dark heavy wool robe. It is stained and filthy. He holds a plain cloth over his mouth. He has no goggles. He has no magic beak. He is completely exposed. He looks just as terrified as you are. There are no mysterious birdmen coming to save you. There are only frightened men in dirty clothes, watching their patients die. You turn away from the main plaza and walk toward a massive stone mansion. It belongs to one of the wealthiest banking families in the entire city. You peer through the intricate, heavy iron gates. The interior courtyard is a masterpiece of early Renaissance architecture. Beautiful marble arches, a gently trickling water fountain. But the scene is totally wrong. A lavish dining table sits abandoned in the shade. Silver platters are piled high with roasted meats and expensive imported fruits, but the wooden chairs are knocked over. The luxurious food is completely black with swarms of buzzing flies. The stench of rotting pork mixes with the smell of death in the warm air. A starving, expensive, purebred hunting dog paces nervously around the table. It barks wildly at the empty air. Where is the family? Where are the dozens of servants? They are gone. They fled days ago. The absolute second the death toll spiked, the elite made their calculated move. They packed their heavy gold, loaded their horses, and vanished. They retreated to their luxurious, isolated villas deep in the lush Tuscan countryside. It is a brutal, timeless truth about survival and wealth. The dynamic never actually changes. Think about it. It is exactly like modern billionaires and executives chartering private helicopters to escape Manhattan during a major crisis. They flee to their heavily guarded, multi-million-dollar estates in the Hamptons, while the dense city below them suffocates. The working laborers, the street sweepers, the bakers, the ordinary people, like you are left entirely behind. You are trapped physically inside the infected city walls. You cannot afford a carriage. You cannot afford a sprawling country estate. You are stuck in the hot, contaminated streets. The disease itself might not care about your bank account, but money absolutely buys you a head start. Money buys you physical distance. And in Florence right now, distance is the only medical cure that actually works. You stare at the barking dog behind the locked iron gates. You realize the ultimate tragedy. The rich left their loyal pets to starve, just like they left the poor to die. Late afternoon. The sun dips lower. The shadows stretch long and dark across the narrow cobblestone streets. The oppressive silence of midday is suddenly broken. It is a harsh, grinding sound. Heavy wooden wheels scraping violently against stone. You quickly press your back hard against a cold brick wall. You hold your breath. A massive wooden cart rumbles past you. It is completely overflowing. There are absolutely no wooden coffins. There are no weeping relatives walking behind it. There are no priests reading final rites. There is only a tangled, horrifying pile of human limbs. The men pulling the heavy cart are terrifying. They are the Becchini. Before the plague, these men were the absolute bottom of the social ladder. They were beggars. They were criminals. They were street outcasts. Now, they are the undisputed kings of Florence. The city is desperate, and they know it. They charge outrageous, extortionate fees just to remove a rotting corpse from a living room. They openly threaten the survivors. They break into vulnerable homes. They wear bloody, unwashed rags. They shout crude jokes to each other over the pile of the dead. It is deeply chilling. You watch them turn the corner, leaving a foul trail on the stones. But here is where the reality gets truly incomprehensible. You have to understand the sheer catastrophic scale of this event. At the beginning of 1348, Florence is a booming, wealthy powerhouse. It boasts a population of roughly 100,000 people. It is packed. It is vibrant. In just a few brutal, horrific months, this disease will wipe out up to 70% of them. Only about 30,000 citizens will be left standing. Imagine that massive scale in modern terms. Picture a major, bustling American hub. Imagine the entire population of Seattle. Or picture the busy streets of Denver. Now imagine 70% of those people just vanishing, completely eradicated in a single summer season. There is literally no one left to dig individual graves. The sacred churchyards are overflowing. They are completely full. So the city resorts to extreme industrial measures. They dig massive, deep trenches outside the city walls. They bring the heavy carts. They dump the bodies in. They pack them tightly. It is described historically as being exactly like packing cargo into the hold of a merchant ship. A layer of bodies, a thin layer of dirt, another layer of bodies. Hundreds of nameless citizens stacked directly on top of each other. You keep walking. The sun is almost gone. The sky turns a bruised, dark purple. You pass a sturdy stone house with thick wooden shutters. The heavy iron lock on the outside is secured tight. As you pass, you hear a sound. It stops you completely in your tracks. It is faint. It is weak. It is the high-pitched, desperate cry of a small child. They are sobbing in the pitch-black interior. You look around the empty street. Where is the family? Where is the mother? Where is the father? The answer is brutal. They are gone. They ran away. The utter terror of the black boils has completely dissolved the fundamental bonds of human nature. The primal instinct to survive overpowers everything else. Husbands lock their infected wives in bedrooms and flee into the street. Mothers abandon their own feverish toddlers to save themselves. The disease rots the flesh, but the fear rots the mind. You stand there in the fading light. You listen to the crying child. You realize the most terrifying truth of the 1348 plague. The bacteria killed the citizens, but the panic killed their humanity. Night finally falls over Florence. The bruising purple sky quickly fades into absolute, impenetrable black. You retreat to your small room. You push the heavy wooden door shut. You slide a thick iron bolt firmly into place. You jam a heavy oak chair directly under the iron handle. It is not the plague you are trying to lock out. You are locking out the living. The local government has completely collapsed. The city guards are either dead or have totally abandoned their posts. Law and order simply do not exist anymore in the dark. You peek through a tiny crack in the thick wooden shutters. Florence is usually a vibrant city of brilliant light and music. Tonight, it is plunged into a suffocating, terrifying gloom. There are absolutely no festive gatherings. There are no tavern songs echoing down the cobblestones. The only illumination comes from scattered, violent orange bonfires in the narrow alleys below. They are burning the infected mattresses. They are burning the soiled clothes. They are burning every single possession of the newly deceased. The acrid, choking smoke of burning wool and melting wax fills the night air. You watch the flickering shadows dance wildly against the stone walls. Figures move quietly through the thick smoke. They are not ghosts. They are opportunistic scavengers. They slip effortlessly into the unlocked homes of the dead. They strip the corpses of fine silk. They take heavy velvet curtains. They pry gold rings off stiff, cold fingers. The Becchini ruled the daylight hours, but these silent thieves rule the night. They are totally unafraid of the sickness. Extreme greed has entirely consumed their fear of divine punishment. You step slowly back from the window. You do not want them to see your eyes. You do not want them to know you are still breathing inside. You retreat entirely into the pitch-black center of the room. You do not dare light a candle. A candle draws unwanted attention. A candle signals life to the desperate people outside. You sit on the edge of your hard wooden bed in the absolute dark. Your physical senses are completely deprived of sight, so your hearing becomes painfully, acutely sharp. Now listen carefully to the darkness. This is where the true psychological torture of the plague actually begins. You hear the deep, settling groans of the timber in the ceiling. You hear the frantic scratching of unseen rats in the walls. Those exact same rats carry the infected fleas, but you do not know that yet. You just hate the terrible sound. Then you hear something significantly worse. It comes right through the thin plaster wall next to your head. It is a cough. A wet, heavy, agonizing cough. It is your neighbor. You have known him for many years. The coughing fit is violently intense. It sounds like his lungs are physically tearing apart inside his chest. You sit completely frozen in the dark. You cannot go over to help him. To help him is to invite the black boils directly onto your own skin. So you just sit there and listen to his profound agony. The coughing continues for agonizing hours. It dictates the entire dread-filled rhythm of your night. Every single time it stops, you instinctively hold your breath. Then it starts again, slightly weaker each time. The wet rattle in his chest becomes incredibly hollow. The brutal pauses between the violent spasms grow longer and longer. You are tracking his fading life through the plaster wall. Eventually, the coughing stops entirely. You wait for the next desperate gasp. 10 minutes pass. An hour passes. Nothing. The heavy silence that follows is infinitely more terrifying than the coughing. The silence means the plague has claimed another soul just inches away from your face. The silence is the permanent quiet of the grave. You pull your rough wool blanket tightly up to your chin. You are completely alone in a city of ghosts. You close your eyes in the suffocating blackness. You begin to pray silently. You do not pray for salvation. You do not pray for a miraculous cure. You just pray to survive long enough to see the sunrise. You survive the long night. The sun eventually rises. The horrific year of 1348 finally ends. The great pestilence slowly burns itself out across Europe. Florence is left as a completely shattered shell. But the grim aftermath brings a massive, unexpected historical shift. There is a sudden, severe labor shortage. The few surviving workers now hold all the economic power. They demand incredibly high wages. Wealth violently redistributes across the surviving social classes. The rigid medieval system permanently breaks. This creates a newly empowered, wealthy middle class. They have money to spend on beautiful things. They fund massive, breathtaking art projects. They spark the Italian Renaissance. The unimaginable, horrifying death of 1348 literally pays for the glorious rebirth of human culture. Today, millions of tourists walk these exact same cobblestones in Florence. They take pictures of the stunning marble architecture. They admire the brilliant golden statues. But under every single beautiful masterpiece lies a massive trench of forgotten bones. You have survived 24 hours in the absolute darkest year in human history. If you want to explore more terrifying historical eras, hit subscribe and let us know what other ancient disasters we should reconstruct next.